When someone rejects you, what's your first reaction? Do you feel the urge to explain yourself, to justify your actions, or maybe even to lash out in frustration? It's completely natural to want to fight back against rejection. But what if, instead of reacting with words or actions, you chose to stay silent? Let me tell you a story about Sarah. A few years ago, Sarah had poured her heart and soul into a business proposal she was confident about. She spent hours, days, and weeks crafting the perfect pitch, anticipating that this would be the opportunity that would take her career to the next level. But when the response came, it was a rejection. A polite one, but rejection nonetheless. Sarah was devastated. She felt the urge to immediately call and defend her ideas, to convince them that they were wrong. But then, something within her shifted. Instead of reacting, she decided to stay silent. She didn't call, didn't argue. Instead, she sat in silence for a moment, reflecting on the feedback and the lesson she could learn. By embracing silence, she gave herself the space to process her emotions, regain her composure, and reflect on what really mattered. In that silence, she found strength and clarity. That moment of silence became a turning point for Sarah. It wasn't just a response to rejection, it was a practice in self-control and a tool for growth. She realized that silence had the power to protect her dignity and her peace, allowing her to rise above the sting of rejection and come out stronger. In today's episode, we're going to explore how silence, especially in moments of rejection, can be your most powerful tool. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, understood that true strength lies not in reacting immediately, but in choosing how we respond to the challenges life throws at us. By staying silent after rejection, we create the space to reflect, grow, and regain our inner strength. So, what happens when you choose silence after rejection? Let's explore the 10 powerful lessons from Stoicism on how silence can become your ally in those challenging moments, turning rejection into an opportunity for personal growth and inner peace. 1. Silence as your best tool to face rejection. Have you ever felt that immediate urge to speak up, defend yourself, or fight back after facing rejection? Whether it's in a personal relationship, a job interview, or any other scenario, rejection can make us feel small, misunderstood, or even wronged. It's a natural instinct to react, to explain ourselves, or to argue our point. But here's the powerful truth. Sometimes the best response to rejection is no response at all. In moments of rejection, silence can be your greatest ally. Instead of engaging in a back and forth or trying to justify your worth, silence allows you to pause, regain your composure, and protect your emotional peace. When you stay silent after rejection, you're not giving away your power to the situation. You're choosing to control your response and maintain your dignity. Think about the moments in your life when you've been rejected. What did you do afterward? Did you immediately try to convince the other person to change their mind? Did you let your emotions take over, possibly making the situation worse? Or, in those rare moments, did you choose to remain silent and allow yourself to reflect? The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, often wrote about the importance of responding to challenges with calm and composure. In his Meditations, Marcus wrote, "When you are troubled by external events, remember that it is not the event that disturbs you, but your judgment about it." What he's suggesting here is that rejection, or any external event, is only as powerful as the meaning we give it. When we react immediately, we allow the event to control us. But by choosing silence, we regain our power. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean you're avoiding the situation. It means you are choosing a thoughtful response over an emotional one. You're not surrendering your self-worth to the rejection. Instead, you're giving yourself the time and space to process the experience before deciding how to act. When you embrace silence after rejection, you prevent yourself from making decisions you may later regret. You create room to understand the rejection better, to learn from it, and most importantly, to protect your mental and emotional well-being. Instead of jumping into an emotional reaction, you take a step back and maintain your sense of self. By staying silent, you also send a powerful message to the person who rejected you. You're not desperate for validation, and you don't need to convince them of your worth. Your silence speaks volumes. It shows confidence, maturity, and strength. You don't need to justify yourself. You know your value, and you are content with who you are, regardless of external validation. So, the next time you face rejection, remember the power of silence. Use it as your tool to regain composure, reflect, and respond with dignity. You'll be surprised by how much strength and clarity you can find in that quiet space. 2. Recognize your own worth through silence. In the face of rejection, it's easy to start doubting ourselves. We might think, if they don't want me, there must be something wrong with me. Our self-worth can get tangled up in how others perceive us or how we are treated. But here's the hard truth. Your worth is not defined by someone else's opinion of you, and silence is a powerful tool to remind yourself of that. When you stay silent after rejection, you create space to reconnect with your own value, independent of external judgment. It's a chance to step back, reflect, and remember that your worth doesn't come from approval or validation. It comes from within. Think about how often we tie our self-worth to external factors. How many times have you felt less than because of a rejection? Maybe it was a job offer that didn't come through, a relationship that didn't work out, or an idea that was shot down. These moments can feel like a personal attack, but the truth is, they don't define you. They only define that one moment or situation. By choosing silence, you give yourself the opportunity to detach from the emotional reaction to rejection. Instead of letting it consume you, you take a step back and ask, what is my true value apart from this moment? In those quiet moments, you can reconnect with your strengths, your achievements, and your unique qualities. This practice of recognizing your worth through silence is rooted in Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that external circumstances, including rejection, should not dictate how we feel about ourselves. Epictetus, a prominent Stoic, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In other words, rejection is a part of life, but your reaction to it is what shapes your sense of self. By staying silent after rejection, you give yourself the time to reflect and remind yourself that your worth is constant, regardless of what happens externally. You don't need others' approval to know who you are or to acknowledge your value. Rejection is just a moment in time. It doesn't define your worth. This doesn't mean you ignore the feedback or the lesson that might come with rejection. Instead, it means you take the time to process the situation without the weight of self-doubt. You separate your identity from the rejection itself and focus on the bigger picture of who you are and what you're capable of. So, when rejection comes, instead of reacting in frustration or self-criticism, embrace the silence. Use it as an opportunity to reflect on your true worth. By taking this moment of stillness, you remind yourself that no one's opinion or action can ever diminish your value. Your worth is not tied to the outcome of a single event, and by recognizing this truth, you free yourself from the emotional turmoil that rejection often brings. Silence gives you the space to reconnect with your inner strength and reassert your self-worth, regardless of external circumstances. 3. Let your absence speak louder than words. When faced with rejection, we often feel the urge to explain ourselves, to defend our actions, or to prove our worth. We feel as though words are necessary to mend the situation, to clarify misunderstandings, or to change the other person's perception of us. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. In fact, your silence can speak volumes, louder than any words ever could. Think about it. When you stay silent after being rejected, you're letting your absence make the statement for you. There's a subtle power in walking away, in not scrambling for validation or attempting to explain yourself. By remaining silent, you let the other person feel the weight of your absence, and in doing so, you allow them to reflect on the impact of their actions. You don't need to justify yourself or engage in an endless back and forth. Your presence, or lack thereof, is enough of a response. This silence doesn't mean you're weak or passive. It's a deliberate, powerful choice. When you choose to stay silent, you're asserting your own boundaries, demonstrating that you won't beg for approval, that you won't chase after someone who doesn't see your value. Your absence becomes a reflection of your self-respect and your decision to protect your energy. In Stoic philosophy, the idea of letting actions speak louder than words is central. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote about the importance of focusing on one's own behavior and not seeking validation from others. He said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, instead of retaliating or seeking justification, the best response is to remain true to your own principles and let your actions, and sometimes your silence, speak for you. When you remain silent, you take the power back from the situation. Instead of getting lost in a debate or a defensive posture, you choose to walk away with dignity. You don't need to explain, apologize, or make excuses for being yourself. You simply let the absence of your words reflect the fact that you recognize your own worth and will not lower yourself to beg for acceptance. This also creates space for the other person to process the situation. Rejection often causes discomfort for both parties involved. By not engaging in a prolonged conversation, you allow the other person to reflect on their actions without the noise of justification. Your silence can make them realize the weight of their decision without you needing to say a single word. It's a powerful form of self-respect. It shows that you are willing to walk away, to let go, rather than hold on to something that doesn't serve you. Your absence, in this case, is not a defeat. It is an assertion of your own self-worth. You are telling the world that you do not need to prove yourself or chase after approval. So, next time you face rejection, consider how silence can be your ally. Let your absence be a powerful response that conveys strength, dignity, and self-respect. You don't always need words to express your value. Sometimes, simply walking away, letting go, and allowing your silence to fill the space is the loudest message you can send. 4. Silence as a refuge for inner peace. In a world that's always moving, always demanding, silence can often feel like a luxury we can't afford. From the moment we wake up, we are bombarded with noise, emails, messages, phone calls, notifications. Even in the moments when we're not actively engaging with others, the mind races with thoughts, worries, and endless lists of things to do. This constant mental chatter can easily lead to stress, anxiety, and a sense of being overwhelmed. But here's the thing. Silence doesn't just mean the absence of sound. It's the presence of inner peace. When you embrace silence, you create a safe haven, a space where you can reconnect with yourself, reset your mind, and protect your emotional well-being. In the aftermath of rejection, silence becomes even more crucial. It's the refuge that allows you to step away from external pressures and focus inwardly, finding calm and clarity amidst the storm of emotions. Stoic philosophers understood the importance of cultivating inner peace. For them, tranquility was a state of mind that could only be achieved by embracing silence and reflection. Epictetus, one of the leading Stoics, taught that we must be mindful of what we allow to disturb our peace. He said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Similarly, inner peace doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from reducing the noise and distractions around us and creating space to focus on what truly matters. When you choose silence after rejection, you create an emotional boundary that protects your peace. Instead of reacting impulsively, whether by arguing, defending yourself, or seeking validation, you give yourself the opportunity to process the rejection quietly. You don't let the outside world dictate your emotional state. You maintain control over your reactions, choosing to protect your mental clarity and emotional well-being. This doesn't mean ignoring your emotions. Silence isn't about bottling up what you feel. It's about allowing yourself the time and space to feel those emotions without being ruled by them. By embracing silence, you give yourself permission to sit with your feelings, reflect on them, and process them in a healthy, productive way. It's in this stillness that we find the strength to understand ourselves better and make decisions based on our values, rather than on fleeting emotions. In practical terms, this could look like taking a moment in the morning to sit in stillness before starting your day. You could meditate, focus on your breathing, or simply reflect on your thoughts in a quiet space. This simple act of embracing silence helps you recalibrate, restore your energy, and start your day from a place of inner peace, not chaos. After rejection, the peace that comes from silence allows you to view the situation more clearly. Instead of letting anger, shame, or frustration control you, you create the space to regain your composure. Silence becomes a tool for emotional regulation, giving you the strength to decide how you'll respond, whether you'll choose to engage or simply let go. By making silence a refuge, you protect yourself from unnecessary stress and cultivate a deep inner peace that can guide you through any challenge, rejection, or difficulty you face. It's the quiet space that allows you to be in control of your emotional responses and stay aligned with your true values. So, when rejection strikes, remember the power of silence as a refuge. Take that moment to step back, regain your inner peace, and center yourself. In this space, you'll find the clarity and strength to move forward with dignity and confidence. 5. Use silence to reflect and grow. When rejection comes your way, it's easy to get lost in the rush of emotions that follow. Disappointment, frustration, sadness, these are all natural responses. But in those moments, silence becomes a powerful tool for reflection and growth. Instead of reacting or allowing those negative emotions to take over, silence offers you the space to step back, gather your thoughts, and understand the situation from a more objective perspective. Think about the times you've been rejected. How many of those moments were followed by emotional reactions, impulsive decisions, or over-explaining yourself? The truth is, when we react impulsively, we often miss out on the opportunity to learn, grow, and become better from the experience. By embracing silence, you give yourself the gift of reflection, allowing you to process the rejection and understand what you can take from it. The Stoics, particularly Seneca, emphasized the importance of reflection in the face of adversity. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. This highlights the power of how we view our experiences. When we're caught up in the heat of the moment, rejection feels like a devastating blow. But through silence and reflection, we gain the perspective needed to see the situation clearly and identify the lessons we can learn. Instead of getting lost in self-pity or anger, use silence as an opportunity to reflect on the rejection. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I improve? What is the real reason for this rejection, and how can I grow from it? This kind of self-reflection helps you gain clarity, build resilience, and make better decisions in the future. It also allows you to view the rejection not as a failure, but as a stepping stone toward your personal growth. Silence also creates the mental space to look inward and evaluate your own actions and mindset. Sometimes rejection reveals areas of ourselves that need improvement, whether it's in our communication, our work ethic, or how we approach challenges. When we're caught up in a cycle of reacting and defending ourselves, we often miss the opportunity to evaluate and grow. Silence gives us the opportunity to pause, process, and come out stronger. This kind of reflection isn't just about identifying where we went wrong. It's also about recognizing our strengths, our resilience, and the things that we're doing right. It's easy to focus on the negative aspects of rejection, but reflection allows you to also recognize the positive progress you've made. You're learning, adapting, and moving forward even in the face of rejection. So the next time you face rejection, remember the power of silence. Instead of reacting immediately, take a moment to reflect. Use the time to learn from the experience, evaluate what you can do better, and recognize how this rejection can ultimately make you stronger and more focused. With each moment of silence, you give yourself the opportunity to grow, not just from the rejection, but in every aspect of your life. 6. Silence as a teacher of self-control. Rejection can trigger a flood of emotions. Anger, frustration, self-doubt. These are all normal reactions when we feel hurt or overlooked. It's tempting in those moments to lash out, to defend ourselves, or to try and explain our worth. But what if the key to mastering rejection and life's challenges is not in reacting, but in exercising self-control through silence? Silence, in this context, is a powerful teacher of self-control. When you choose to remain silent in the face of rejection, you are not ignoring your feelings. You are choosing to control your reaction. Instead of letting your emotions dictate your response, you consciously decide to hold back, to pause, and to reflect before acting. This is the essence of emotional discipline. The Stoics believed that one of the greatest forms of strength was the ability to control our emotions, especially in moments of adversity. Seneca, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In other words, our emotional responses, our knee-jerk reactions, are often more damaging than the event itself. Our minds can amplify rejection, turning it into something far worse than it actually is. But silence provides us with the space to break that cycle, to step away from immediate reactions, and to regain control of our emotions. Think about how often we regret speaking or acting in the heat of the moment. How many times have we let a harsh word, an angry outburst, or a defensive remark cost us in the long run? Rejection can feel personal, but the way we choose to respond defines who we are and how we grow. By embracing silence, we practice self-control, and in doing so, we preserve our dignity and avoid unnecessary conflict. When you stay silent after rejection, you are demonstrating to yourself that you can remain calm and composed even when life doesn't go your way. You're learning to take a step back, assess the situation with clarity, and respond thoughtfully, not impulsively. Silence helps you avoid making decisions you might regret later, giving you the opportunity to think through your emotions and actions before taking the next step. This practice of self-control isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about mastering them. Silence teaches us that we don't need to react right away. We don't need to rush to defend ourselves or prove our worth. The space between rejection and our response is where growth happens. When we allow ourselves time to process, to reflect, and to calm our minds, we gain the self-control needed to respond with wisdom and dignity. So, next time you face rejection, remember that silence isn't a passive choice. It's an active practice of self-control. It's the moment you decide not to let your emotions control you, but instead to choose how to respond thoughtfully and with strength. By mastering this skill, you're not only handling rejection better, but you're also building emotional resilience that will serve you in all areas of life. 7. The absence of words reveals the strength of your character. When rejection hits, the first instinct for many of us is to react, to explain, to justify, or to convince the other person of our worth. We think that our words will change their perspective, will make them see us differently. But sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is not through your words at all. Sometimes silence itself speaks louder than anything you could ever say. In moments of rejection, choosing silence can reveal the strength of your character. By not engaging in a defensive or emotional response, you show others, and more importantly yourself, that you don't need to justify your worth. Your silence demonstrates confidence, maturity, and inner strength. It's the silent response that often carries the most weight, because it shows you are in control of your emotions, your actions, and your peace of mind. Think about the times when someone has lashed out at you or rejected you. What made the biggest impact on you in those moments? Was it their words, or was it your ability to remain calm, collected, and unbothered? Often, it's not the words we speak, but the way we carry ourselves in those challenging moments that leaves a lasting impression. The Stoics understood the importance of maintaining one's dignity and composure, particularly in times of adversity. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often wrote about the importance of showing strength through how we handle difficult situations. He said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." What he meant was that our true strength is shown in how we respond to adversity, not by seeking retribution, but by maintaining our principles and staying true to ourselves. Silence in the face of rejection can be a powerful assertion of your self-respect. By choosing not to react immediately, you refuse to let the rejection dictate your self-worth. You are affirming to yourself and to others that you don't need external validation to know who you are. Your strength comes from within, and that is what others will ultimately recognize. This is where the real power of silence lies. It's not about shutting down or ignoring the situation. It's about showing restraint, dignity, and confidence in your own value. When you don't need to justify yourself, you demonstrate that you are secure in who you are. The absence of words becomes your statement of strength. So, when faced with rejection, remember that you don't need to respond with words. Your silence will often speak volumes, reflecting your ability to stay calm, composed, and confident in your own worth. And in that silence, you'll find strength and clarity that words could never convey. 8. Rejection as an opportunity to redefine your priorities. Rejection is never easy. Whether it's a job offer you were hoping for, a relationship that didn't work out, or an idea that didn't get the approval you expected, it often leaves us feeling deflated. But rejection is not the end of the road. It can actually be one of the most valuable opportunities you'll ever have to reassess and redefine your priorities. When we experience rejection, it's a signal. It forces us to stop and take a hard look at what we really want, what truly matters, and where we should be focusing our energy. It can reveal areas of our lives where we've been investing time and effort, only to realize that they may not align with our deeper values or long-term goals. The Stoics believed in the importance of constant self-reflection, especially when faced with challenges. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the need to turn obstacles into opportunities for growth. He believed that everything, even rejection, could be viewed as a chance to refine our character and our actions. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This perspective turns rejection into a catalyst for re-evaluation and change. When you stay silent after rejection, you create the space to reflect on your priorities without the noise of emotional reactions clouding your judgment. In those moments of stillness, you can ask yourself, what is truly important to me? What should I be focusing my energy on? Am I chasing goals that are aligned with my deepest values, or have I been distracted by external expectations? Rejection offers you a chance to clear away distractions and realign yourself with your true purpose. It forces you to look at what isn't working and ask yourself if you're focusing on the right things. In that silence, you have the opportunity to reset, to choose a new path, and to direct your energy toward what really matters. By embracing silence after rejection, you give yourself permission to step back and reassess without rushing into new decisions or reacting impulsively. You have time to let go of the need for validation and to reframe the situation as an opportunity for growth. Use this time to redefine your priorities and to ensure that you are focusing your energy on what will bring you true fulfillment. This act of reflection and realignment doesn't mean you abandon your goals or give up. It means you gain clarity on the path you need to take. Rejection is simply the universe's way of nudging you back to what really matters, helping you strip away distractions and refocus on your most meaningful pursuits. So, when rejection comes, instead of feeling defeated, use that silence to reflect on your priorities. Let it be a chance to re-evaluate what truly matters, to align your efforts with your deepest values, and to move forward with renewed purpose and clarity. 9. Don't seek validation. Find freedom in your silence. Rejection often leaves us searching for approval. We seek validation from others to reassure us that we are worthy, capable, and deserving. Whether it's trying to win back a relationship, get a job, or simply gain someone's approval, the need for validation can consume us. We may find ourselves seeking answers, explanations, or justifications, hoping that our worth will be recognized by someone else. But what if, instead of chasing after validation, you could find freedom in silence? The power of silence is that it frees you from the need for external approval. When you choose silence after rejection, you are no longer looking for someone else to affirm your worth. You stop seeking validation from others and instead turn inward to validate yourself. This shift is liberating. It's the moment you realize that your self-worth is not dependent on the opinions or approval of others. You are enough just as you are. In a world that constantly pushes us to seek external validation through likes on social media, promotions at work, or even approval in personal relationships, it's easy to fall into the trap of measuring our worth by what others think. But the Stoics understood that true freedom comes from within. Epictetus said, Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. By choosing silence after rejection, you are taking back your freedom from the external world and claiming it for yourself. Silence allows you to stop chasing after the approval that only gives you temporary satisfaction. It empowers you to stop seeking constant validation and instead trust in your own judgment, your own worth. In those moments of quiet, you reclaim your sense of identity, independent of others' opinions or expectations. This is where the true strength of silence lies. It teaches you to rely on yourself. When you no longer seek approval, you become free to make decisions that align with your own values and goals, rather than trying to meet the expectations of others. You can stand firm in your choices, knowing that they are right for you, regardless of external feedback. The more you practice finding freedom in your silence, the more you will find peace. You will realize that you don't need to explain yourself, justify your actions, or seek permission from others to pursue your dreams. Silence becomes a tool for personal liberation, giving you the confidence to move forward without the burden of needing others to validate your worth. So, the next time rejection comes your way, remember, you don't need validation from anyone else. Instead of speaking or seeking approval, turn to silence and find your freedom. In those moments of stillness, you'll discover your own strength, your own value, and the peace that comes with knowing you are enough, just as you are. 10. Silence as a statement of dignity and self-respect. Rejection can often make us feel small, invisible, or insignificant, leading us to question our own worth. In moments like these, it's natural to want to defend ourselves, to explain why we were right, or to seek an apology. But what if, instead of trying to prove our value, we let our silence speak for us? What if silence became a statement of dignity and self-respect? When we choose silence after rejection, we are not giving up or admitting defeat. On the contrary, we are asserting our dignity by refusing to lower ourselves to the level of unnecessary explanations or justifications. Silence is a powerful act of self-respect. It shows that we value ourselves enough not to engage in a dialogue that diminishes our worth or energy. Think about a moment in your life when you felt rejected. Perhaps it was a personal relationship, a professional setback, or a situation where you were overlooked or misunderstood. In those moments, how often did you feel the need to defend yourself, to explain, or to change someone's mind? How many times did you let the rejection consume your thoughts and emotions, trying to fix something that was beyond your control? Now, imagine how different that situation would have been if you had chosen silence. Instead of scrambling for approval or validation, you chose to remain composed, preserving your energy and protecting your sense of self-worth. Silence, in this context, becomes a way of saying, "I know my value, and I don't need to convince anyone of it." It's a way of telling the world that you will not lower yourself to seek approval or justification from others. In Stoic philosophy, the idea of maintaining personal dignity and self-respect is paramount. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of upholding one's integrity, no matter the external circumstances. He said, "A man is not good because he has wealth, nor is he bad because he lacks it. It is the man's character that matters, and it is his behavior that defines him." In other words, it's not external rejection that defines who you are. It's how you carry yourself in response that reveals your true character. By staying silent, you show that your worth is not dependent on external validation. You refuse to engage in actions that might compromise your self-respect. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It means standing firm in your values, choosing not to react emotionally and maintaining the strength of your character. This practice of silence becomes a form of self-protection. It helps you guard your dignity against the negative emotions rejection can trigger. It's a choice that puts your emotional well-being first, enabling you to process your feelings with grace and composure. So, the next time rejection knocks at your door, remember that silence is not a weakness. It is a statement of strength. It is a declaration that you will not let rejection define you. You choose to uphold your dignity and self-respect, knowing that your worth is not contingent on someone else's opinion. By embracing silence, you make the most powerful statement of all. I am enough, just as I am. As we wrap up today's episode, remember this: rejection is a part of life. It's something we all face at one point or another, and while it can feel painful, it doesn't have to define us. In fact, rejection can become one of our greatest opportunities for growth when we choose to respond with silence. Silence isn't about shutting down or avoiding feelings. It's about finding the strength to control our reactions and preserve our dignity. By embracing silence in the face of rejection, you allow yourself to reflect, to regain your inner peace, and to redefine your priorities. You take back your power and show the world that your worth is not dependent on anyone else's approval. The Stoics knew that the key to resilience lies in controlling how we react to life's challenges. Silence is one of the most powerful tools we have to maintain our composure, dignity, and self-respect. It allows us to grow, to reflect, and to find freedom from the need for validation. So, the next time rejection comes your way, I encourage you to pause, to embrace silence, and to use that moment to reconnect with your inner strength. Let silence be your guide, your refuge, and your statement of self-worth. In the stillness, you'll find clarity and peace, qualities that will carry you through rejection and beyond. Thank you for joining me today. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let's continue spreading the wisdom of Stoicism and its power to help us grow stronger, calmer, and more resilient in the face of life's challenges.